ॐ जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। Please sit erect and let your limbs loose. Close your eyes and try to withdraw your mind from all the external disturbances. I will chant Om, and after 5 minutes again chant Om. So close your eyes and try to concentrate on yourself, the Atman. For 3 weeks now, we have been discussing Srimad Bhagavad Gita, but the aim of such discussion is to find out tools to be used in our daily lives, for application in our daily lives. And so, we are trying to analyze each verse, in fact each word of this Bhagavad Gita, and try to relate it with our lives. So that's why we call this series Gita for All. And generally there is a notion that the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is just a descriptive chapter. It contains description of the armies, description of the various warriors assembled in Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra with an intention to war, fight a battle. But when we read the commentaries of great sages of the Indian tradition, we find that that is not exactly the case. Though Shankaracharya did not comment upon the first chapter, for reasons best known to Shankaracharya only, we find that many other commentators like Madhusudana Saraswati, writing a detailed commentary on the first chapter, making clear the real problems of human mind which have been very nicely depicted in the first chapter. And the second thing is that whenever we read a text which I prefer to call a manual, which has got many mantras or verses like the Katha Upanishad, the question that immediately arises is, when are we going to complete this text? So, I'm reminded of a Swami who was a great saint of Ramakrishna Mission. His name was Swami Tyagishananda, who was an advocate by profession before joining the Ramakrishna order. And it was because of the disillusionment with the profession of advocacy, lawyer, that he joined the order, because he found that there is no vocation outside this monastic life which is totally free from falsity. When he was the head of our center at Bull Temple Road, Bangalore, he was giving classes on Bhagavad Gita. And some devotee came to him and said that Swamiji, you are now giving classes on Bhagavad Gita. Oh, sorry, it was not Bhagavad Gita, Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasya Upanishad. And for many weeks you have talked only about the first word of Ishavasya Upanishad, that is Ishavasyam idam sarvam. So Isha, he was going on talking about the word Isha, explaining, expounding, analyzing the word Isha. So the devotee's concern was, when will this whole Upanishad finish? So he said, oh, you want to finish the Upanishad? Fine. Next week he finished the Upanishad. So the idea is not to so much to finish a particular text, but to understand the ramification and analyze the relevance to our lives. Because as Swami Vivekananda said, if a person, a biologist or a botanist to be very specific, were to analyze the patterns, the petals and the stamen and the pollen and the oriental floral pattern of a flower, if one were to dedicate one's entire life to the analysis of the pattern of only one flower, that is sufficient to not only unravel the mystery of that flower, but also to open to oneself the entire mass of knowledge. Because in every part of this universe lies the secret of the entire universe. So similarly, in the scriptures, if we devote our time to understand the depth and the significance of a particular text, and if we do it properly, I can tell you from experience that all the other scriptures, all the other texts of such nature will become very clear to you. So I think I have answered some questions of one of my friends here. Now we go back to the Gita. We had first seen an introduction to the Gita, wherein I pointed out that it is a manual for life. Then we saw the first chapter where we were talking about what is Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra, etc. What is Dharmakshetra? What is Kurukshetra? Then first chapter, first verse, then second verse of the first chapter. Drishtvatu Pandavanikam, having seen the battle formation of Pandavas. So we saw that how this word tu, which is in Sanskrit called avyaya or indeclinable, it doesn't change according to cases. So case is called vibhakti in Sanskrit. So it doesn't change according to mood or case. So it is the same, tu. So how many meanings of the word tu were there in that text? Now we come to the third verse of this Gita, first chapter. So I will chant the verse, you please follow me. Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudam Drupadaputrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. The word meaning is, simple word meaning, Pashya, see, Etan, see this, these, Etan, Panduputranam, of the sons of Pandu or Pandavas. Pandavas are the sons of Pandu, Pandu Putranam. Acharya. So Acharya is an addressing. So the previous shloka was Drishtvatu Pandavanikam Vyudam Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. So the Raja, that is Duryodhana, he, having seen the battle formation of Pandavas, got frightened and went to Dronacharya and Abravit, told these things. So there also we saw that Abravit means he did not simply tell things, he told things, words full of meaning, pregnant with meaning. So if you tell somebody how intelligent you are, somebody comes and tells you that, do you know, we get pizza in Kolkata. So what do you say to such a person? You say, oh, how intelligent you are. So that means the word has got a hidden meaning. Means, no, such a fool you are. Even a small kid knows that. So, but how, oh, really, how intelligent you are. What great. This is a common way of speaking. So similarly, Duryodhana is now talking to Dronacharya, his teacher. And there is again a question, why only Dronacharya? We will come to that. Why? There are so many other teachers. Why he went only to Dronacharya? So there are so many hidden meanings for that. So Pashya Etan and Acharya, he is addressing Dronacharya as Acharya. Pashya Etan means this Pashya is a request. Please see, please see. Mahatim Chamum means this great army, great army. Vyudam, and army, not an ordinary army, army not which is scattered or disorganized, but an army which is in proper battle formation. Last time we saw what is a battle formation. So a particular systematic formation of army, Vyudha, that is called Vyudha. So Vyudam, so, and it has been formed in that formation by whom? By Drishtadyumna. But here Duryodhana is saying Drupada Putrena. Actually Drishtadyumna is the son of Drupada. So Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. Who is your own Tava? Means your Shishyena Dhimata. Who is your own disciple, and he is not an ordinary disciple. Dhimata means, mata means opinion, or also it means brain, and dhi means who has got an intelligent brain, who has got intelligent thought or intelligent thinking. So he is not an ordinary person, he is an extraordinary person, and he is your disciple. And this disciple has created this army battle formation. So please see, this is the word meaning. Now we go to the actual meaning or the hidden meaning. So whenever somebody tells something, how do you understand the meaning? There are different kinds of meanings of any words. First is the word meaning, which is called the etymological meaning. So etymological meaning. So for example, in our pizza example, how intelligent you are. So the etymological meaning is you are very intelligent. Then the meaning, which is the intention of the speaker. Intention of the speaker. Tatparya. It is called Tatparya in philosophy. The intention of the speaker. What is the meaning? So here the person is told how intelligent you are, but the person wants to mean that how fool you are. Is this even a thing to be told? We all know about this. So you are such a fool, or you are talking unnecessarily, or it is totally unwanted, etc. So this is the intention of the speaker. Though the words used mean something else, but the intention is something else. Then there is something called contextual meaning. When somebody is sleeping, you call the person, you say wake up. That means get up from sleep. If I were to tell you here, wake up, presumably nobody is dozing hearing my words. So if I say that wake up, that means here the context is different. When Swami Vivekananda told a huge audience, arise, awake and stop not till the goal is reached, definitely he was not asking them to get up from sleep. So that is a contextual meaning. Contextual meaning. So similarly, these are the different kinds of meaning. One is the meaning which is the intention of the speaker, which is very much important, and then even that in a particular context. So here we will see the contextual meaning and also the intention of the speaker here, Duryodhana. So he is saying Pashyaitan. See these. These means these people who are standing in front of you. Who are they? Pandavas. Pandavas are standing in front of you. See this, these people. Now why does somebody tell that? So you go to the room of a principal. Some of you may have first-hand experience with this, many of you may not have. So you go to the principal's room and you find that a child is sitting in front of the principal and nearby the parent is sitting and the principal is saying, see your child. That means what? See what kind of work your child is doing. What is your child doing? And sometimes it depends on who the child is close to. Suppose the child is close to the mother, then father will say, see, dekho tumhar chele ki korche. See. And suppose it is the other way around. Generally, cheles are closer to mother and generally there is nothing in that, but generally it is like that. And maids are all, means all daughters are closer to father. So they say, amra মেয়ে দেখেছেন কি করছে, কিরকম आदर दिए दिए खराब करे देखेছেন etc. तो आपने प्यार देके बिगाड़ के रखा है, all this kind of thing. So that is Pashyaitan. So this is the idea. See this. So here though Duryodhana is telling with respect, Acharya. So the word is used, Acharya. Teacher, please see. But here it is, see all these Pandavas. So now the first objection is, see how they are standing in front of you. You are the teacher. And these people have no shame. They have come to fight the teachers. And you see how they are standing. They have no fear at all. Pashyaitan. Just see what is happening here. So once you are not able to, why we need it in our lives? Once we are not able to do something by our talent, we find logic like this. See, sir, see how one person can give such a good presentation. Because that fellow had a good software, that's why. If I had good software, I also would have given good presentation. Software, when Steve Jobs used to give presentation, he used to have 1 or 2 words on a black screen, white word, that's all. That's the end of presentation. Steve Jobs, who has been a pioneer in many things which we use nowadays to present our things, he himself, in his presentations, they were just black and white. And he was a wonderful presenter. So it's not about the software or things, but still we will say, AC was so nice, that is why audience was more. So, no, we do say. So say immediately like this. See, these people, this fellow is mortally afraid of facing Pandavas, whose army is much lesser, smaller than the Kaurava army. But he is saying, see, Parshad, see, like in school, particularly in lower classes, somebody say, सर सर देखो उसने मुझे चूटी काटा क्या, उसने मुझे काट दिया, सर सर देखो मैडम मैडम उसने मुझे मार दिया. So this kind of complaining, चुगली करना. See, Pashyaitan. See, they have no fear. They are standing in front of Kripacharya, Dronacharya, all these teachers, and see, you have no fear. And they have no fear, and they are standing in battle formation. And this he is telling, so this is one artist's impression of Dronacharya. He is telling to create anger in the mind of Duryodhana. Dronacharya. Duryodhana is telling to create anger in the mind of Dronacharya. How do you see that? There are various ways to see this. Why does he want to create anger? First of all, you see, these people, they are your students and they are not afraid of their own teachers. So whenever you meet teachers, you should do pranam and all that. Now these people are ready with all their missiles and bows and arrows to fight with you. And they are disrespecting you. They are not bothered. No care attitude. So Narendranath Datta, when he was young, he was staying in Kolkata. People used to criticize him. Like, Shimla Pada Datta Badi Chele, and this Datta family's son, and he has no respect. He smokes cigarette and goes in front of us. What kind of boy is he? He should have some respect, no, some decorum, something. He has got his own thinking. That is the, if you translate it, that's the meaning. He has his own thinking. He does not blindly follow us. What kind of boy is this? So even now, some people who think that grey hair means wisdom, some people think like that. Grey hair means wisdom. So they say, patta dena, what? Amar kotha sunai na. So because you have got no kotha worth suna, you have got nothing to say worth listening to, so these people don't bother. So don't care attitude. What? So these people, he says, you see, your disciples, they have don't care attitude. They don't bother. They're standing like that in front of you. They should be like finger on lips, and they should keep quiet, and they should stand with their hands tied and all. But they are in battle formation. That is one thing. And second thing is, in Dronacharya's mind, he is telling, since they don't respect you, don't bother about them. The relationship between the taught and the teacher remains only so far or so long the teacher is given respect. That is what Duryodhana wants to say, implied meaning. So because they are not respecting you, don't bother about them. You don't have any qualms of conscience in killing them. Don't have any mercy that, arey, these are my students. Don't think like that. Straight away kill them because they have no botheration. So because they don't respect you, they don't deserve your consideration. They don't deserve your respect. They are not to be respected. This is one thing. One point of inducing anger. And second point of inducing anger is what kind of teacher you are. You are a teacher, and you see what kind of people you have taught. And because you have taught such people, now I have to face the music. Because of your stupidity, you call yourself Dronacharya, but you're a stupid teacher. And you taught all these worthless people. So there was no proper entrance examination, unlike IIT. And they were not properly screened. No, preliminary test was not done. Adhikari, that is the word in Sanskrit, Adhikari. So the Adhikari, one who is qualified, one who is worthy of being taught, worthy of education. That was not done. Proper screening was not done. Any Tom, Dick and Harry is given admission, and this is what happens. The moment somebody makes the bridge, and even after, before inauguration itself, it falls down. So what is happening in India? So that is why you should not bother about this fellow. What this, you have done this, and now I am a chief minister, I have to face the music. So like that, means I have. So Duryodhana says, because of your lack of understanding of your teachers, now I as a king has to face this music. I have to face them, and I am in a big predicament. Why? Because both sides are your students. And see, and that is why he went to Dronacharya. This is the reason why he went to Dronacharya. And he said that both sides are your students. And this is what your students do. They learn from you and then they fight with you. They learn from you to attack you. Like they say, Astin ka samp. In Hindi there is a phrase. Astin ka samp means what? Jis thali mein khaya, usi mein ched kiya. Huh? So the thing which is feeding you, suppose you feed a snake, what the snake will do? When the snake wants to bite, it will not see whether you have. So there are various kinds of dogs, you know, like bulldog, pit bull, bulldog. Then there is this Rottweiler, etc. There are various kinds of dogs which do not even spare the owner. And the master itself it will kill. So, like that. You have taught these people. And what are they doing? At the end of the day, they are going to kill you. They have come here with the intention of killing you. And both sides are your student. And so, all your education has gone in vain. Because what I know, they also know. What Kaurava army knows, as far as Dronacharya's wisdom is concerned, as far as the department of archery is concerned, whatever Kauravas know, Pandavas also know. So all your education is in vain. What is the use of such education? So I don't gain anything. Though I have been feeding you as a king, I don't stand to gain because of that. So you have created such person like that. But then again, there is another. Now they are difficult to conquer also, because you have already taught them all this secret weaponry. They are difficult to conquer. Having said this, there is another important thing which he says, that now you try to show your Gurugiri. We know of Gandhigiri, but this is Gurugiri. You show Gurugiri and you try to show them that you are the teacher and try to, kind of emotionally blackmail them. Because after all, at the end of the day, teacher has to win, student has to lose. So it will be easy for you to somehow win them if you can prevail upon them, if you can show them. The other day I was giving an example of a wrestler who went with kadai and with some secret technique. So some like that. You please tell some secret technique which you have not taught them yet. Maybe you have not taught us also, but that doesn't matter. You show some secret formula and win this war. Now this is what Duryodhana is trying to imply also. But then what he is effectively doing is he is ridiculing Dronacharya. He is criticizing Dronacharya. He is telling him, what is he telling? It's a big criticism. Oh, this all we saw. Achha, both sides are your strength. Because both are your students, so both sides are your strength. And this also we just saw. Achha, ridicule of Dronacharya. What is the ridicule? First thing is, you are the royal teacher. So you are supposed to protect the kingdom, but you have ended up training the enemies. You have actually trained the enemies, and you have trained them quite well. In fact, your most foremost disciple is who? Arjuna. So he is there in Pandava. So you have in fact sabotaged the whole thing. You have trained your enemies very well. And the Pashyetam Panduputranam. Then what is it? Vyudam Drupada Putrena. He does not say Drishtadumna. He says Drupada Putrena Vyudam. The battle formation by whom? He does not say Drishtadumna. He says Drupada Putra. He says son of Drupada. Why? Duryodhana is not a good person, of course, we know that. So he again criticizes Dronacharya, saying that Drupada, who is Drupada? You have a long-standing enmity with Drupada. There is a long-standing enmity with Drupada. So I am not going into the details. You can go into Google and other places and find it out yourself. It's all there, part of mythology. So there was a long-standing enmity between Drupada and Dronacharya. And now what have you done? You have taught all these techniques, weaponry to the son of whom? Your arch enemy. You have taught all this to your greatest enemy. And now it is the son of your enemy who is standing there. So had Duryodhana said Drishtadumna, effect would not have been so much. But he is telling Drupada Putra. So the son of Drupada, you are enemy. You are enemy. You have taught So what happens in an employee-employer relationship? What do? You don't say, so there are multiple layers, multiple tiers of bosses. No, there is one boss, then the super boss, super boss. Sir, উনি আপনাকে পছন্দ করছেন না, আপনাকে ডাউন করার জন্য এরকম করেছেন, and you know, get both people fight together and you get your promotion or whatever it is you want. So this is because that he doesn't like you. Correct. He doesn't like me. That is why he doesn't want that I should come up. So he is trying to push me down. And you take benefit of the enmity of this. So Drupada Putrena. It is not Drishtadyumna, but it is the son of Drupada. You are enemy. And what you have done? You have made him capable of killing you. You have actually trained him to kill you. So Drishtadyumna was born to kill you. His purpose of life is to kill you, and that you have done. And again, this Drishtadyumna, how does he characterize? Dhimata. He is not an ordinary person. Now what have you done? Had you given this knowledge to somebody who does not have proper brains, so I would not have bothered. In a class of about 30 people, there are some people who excel, some people who are totally on the opposite side. Most of them are average. But if suppose everyone can learn everything only when it is told once, at once, means even if they hear, only once they can learn. Suppose all students were like that, then everyone will get the same grading, and then there will be no first, second, and everyone will become first. So that will be a problem. Now how do you defeat somebody? Because some people do not have concentration, some people do not have memory, some people cannot remember everything, because everyone reads the same books, everyone gets access to the same resources, same classes, but some people excel, some people don't, depending on the concentration, depending on the memory power. So the problem of Duryodhana is, you have chosen, he says, he tells to Dronacharya that you have chosen a student who is Dhimata. He is very intelligent, exceptionally brilliant, and whatever you told him, he has already taken. He has already taken and he has understood it, he has assimilated. So I cannot depend, or I cannot bank on his lack of intelligence or his bad memory power. So it is not like the case of Karna, where Karna by deceit he told Parashurama that he is a Brahmin and he learnt everything. And what did Parashurama curse him? He said, all these knowledge will go waste. When you need it most, you will forget it. So what is the use of such knowledge? So he gave such a curse. But Drishtadyumna is not like that. So how do I fight him? How do I fight him? And not only that, he is not only a person who is well versed in warfare. He is not a person like Bhima. It may not be a very good or a very happy comparison, but generally that is how Mahabharata or other texts tell, that Bhima was more towards fighting. No? He did not give much attention to the brain part of the thing. So more towards fighting and eating, etc., which is necessary if you want to fight. So Drishtadyumna is told to be not just a person who is adept in warfare, not a great warrior, but a great intellectual also. So Duryodhana says that even if he were like Bhima or somebody who was not very sharp in brain, I could have done some tricks and defeated him. As Duryodhana himself was defeated by Krishna. We know the incident when he is going to Gandhari and Krishna says, oh, you are going naked, so please wear something, and that is the place where he was hit. So, but there is no way to fool or to play tricks with Drishtadyumna, because even in scriptures, even intellectually, he is a great person. So you see, you have he has both knowledge and he has action. And this is the person, this should be the last person to whom you should have taught this, and you have taught him, and he is standing in front of you. He is standing in front of you. So I remember one friend of mine whose father was working in a company, and he recommended some person for employment in the same company. And what happened? Within a month's time, that person stood as the head of the union which went on a strike. So he said, you see, you wanted to help that fellow, and now that fellow has taken flag and whatever, he is marching and shouting slogans and closing the company, trying to close the company. So that is what. Now you taught Drishtadyumna, you taught the son of your enemy, you thought that you are a great person, broad-hearted, etc., large-hearted, and what has happened? This is what happened. Now this is a question actually. Okay, this is a question. And another thing is Pashya etan. This thing is a request, but at the same time, like when a class is going on and somebody is looking at something. No, you see, there was a class going on and a student was looking at something on the wall. Then the teacher had told everyone to draw something, or maybe to solve some mathematical problem. Then the teacher is asking, Hoyeche? Hoyeche means is it over? Then the fellow is saying, na lechta baki ache. The tail is remaining. Why? Because a lizard was trying to get into a hole and he saw that everything is gone, only the tail is remaining. So he said, no, tail is remaining. So similarly, you get distracted. You suddenly find that no, now it is beyond me to concentrate on the class, so distracted. So Duryodhana is telling Dronacharya not to get distracted. He's saying, Pashya, concentrate here. You concentrate on my problem. Look where you have landed me into. Look what trouble you have landed me into. Pashya. That is another way of telling, please concentrate. And why concentrate? Because this fellow has created so much of problem. So Drishtadyumna is very clever because he, being an enemy, has been taught by the enemy, and using your own knowledge is going to defeat you. So the Dhimata word also means that he is expert in scriptures and warfare, but it also means that it is so intelligent that he took your own weaponry or your own knowledge, resources, and he is turning it against you. He is using your own resources he is so intelligent, so please concentrate on that. And then he is reminding the enmity between Drupada and Drishtadyumna, and he is saying that he is an expert enemy, we saw that, and he is intelligent and cannot be ignored. There is no way I can ignore this fellow, because if I ignore, I will be in serious problem. So I have to. Now there is no way I can ignore this fellow. I have to do something about it. And all this problem has been created because of you. Now you see what happens is, now the question is very clear. Is this clear to you? Duryodhana is asking Dronacharya, am I clear? Is this clear to you? He is kind of fixing or blaming Dronacharya for the whole thing. And it is like this. Do you understand that this is your mistake? Are you listening? Are you understanding that this is your mistake? And or conversely, do you deny? Do you say that this is not what has happened? And there is another problem again here. All through Mahabharata, wherever we find the teaching of Pandavas and Kauravas, we find that Dronacharya was very openly loving Pandavas. So his favorite students were not the Kauravas but the Pandavas. So he says, see, you, and also there is a question of doubt. Now Duryodhana is doubting Dronacharya. He says that will you be able to kill Pandavas? Will you be able to kill Pandavas? Now this question will come again and again throughout Gita. Now this is a point which we need to understand very much. Suppose you are the CEO of a company, and as happens in many family businesses, you have appointed your son just after MBA as the executive director. This is interesting because most of the family businesses, this is what happens. So in the whole company structure, there are so many people who have done MBA, probably from Harvard, and then they have been appointed after years of experience in the particular position, but you appoint your son immediately as the executive director, and you are the CEO of the company, and something goes wrong. Even this is wrong, but okay, let it pass. But that's executive director does something wrong, and what do? You simply pardon that fellow. Why? Because he is your son. So will you be able to, now this question is not only to Duryodhana, Dronacharya, but also to Arjuna. Arjuna says, how will I kill my own people? That's what he will say later on in this very chapter. How will I kill my own people? So the question is that your own people, if your son were to commit a murder, will you or will you not hand over the son to police? Or as things are today, better kill the person himself because we don't know what the police will do with your son. But anyway, ensure that justice is done with your son. Do you do that? Can you do that? So I also know of some business families where the son cannot just become an executive director just like that. So he has to join as an apprentice. He has to go through the whole thing, and probably after 30 years, if he is performing well, he can go. Otherwise, I also know of a business family where they dismissed, that person dismissed his own daughter. He said, you are not fit for my company. So that is good. But how many of us can actually do that? So this is again a question which is put to ethical question, ethical dilemma. Mahabharata is full of ethical dilemmas. So ethical dilemma, whether you will actually kill Pandavas, because you never liked me. You liked Arjuna more than me. You liked Pandavas more than me and my brothers, Kauravas. So will you be able to kill them? And will you at all fight properly? So the best way to dump on examination is not to write at all. Write it so badly that you will simply fail. So that is the question. That is the question. And this question is coming. Now you would have seen that before, in certain cases, in certain movies also, before a war takes place, the commander of the army tells certain things to the army to motivate, to, as they say in Hindi, josh badhane ke liye, to increase the passion of the army. So they say, kill them, they did this. Kill them, and they did so many wrong things. So we have to kill them. Are you ready to kill them? They say, yes, we are ready to kill them. Of course, in modern warfare, we don't have that kind of, the field army thing is comparatively very less. But that is how even today in modern warfare also, when field army or the people, army, when it has to fight, this is how the ethos or the passion is increased. The commander says that you have to kill, maro, and they will go and maro. Now, Duryodhana is indirectly doing this to Dronacharya. He is trying to create anger and passion in Dronacharya and telling this is what you have to do and this is why you have to do. By telling a person that you will not be able to do. So you give a project to a person and say, oh, you will, okay, if possible you do it. I think it is difficult, but okay, you can try. So that is the best way to tell the person. If you say you please do it or you have to submit by this time, the person will never do. But if you say that, oh, will you be able to? I think, but you can try anyway. So then the person will take it as a challenge. Like children, if you say, don't do this, that is the exact thing they will do. So you say to a child, you tell a child, don't go into that room. And then the next moment the person will be in that, the child will be in that room. So this is pure psychology. So similarly you tell this person you can't do. So Dronacharya has been told by Duryodhana that, oh, will you be able to kill Pandavas? They are your best disciples or students. And also, you see what you have done, you have created your own enemy by your own hands, you have trained them, etc., etc. So telling all these negative things, Duryodhana is indirectly trying to create a passion for killing this.
This Duryodhana is saying so many things to Dronacharya. Now the Dronacharya can't say that it is because of you and your father this whole program is running. It is not because of me.
Now Dronacharya can say, but unfortunately here we don't have what he said. So that is the thing. But of course another thing is Dronacharya cannot say that also. There is again an ethical problem involved. Dronacharya cannot say that because Dronacharya is actually being patronized or being paid by Duryodhana. So generally it's very difficult for you to tell you at the face of your boss that you are a fool. The next moment you will be fired. So you see not only Duryodhana, all people, all other acharyas, all of them know that what they are doing is a wrong thing, but they are all being partners to crime. And later on, or even before the war, Krishna tells this many places in Mahabharata. He says, it is there even in the serial. So he says that the fault, the mistake of all you people is that you have been party to the crime. You have been party to the crime. It is not so much that you yourself did not do crime, but when Draupadi was brought to the court and she was removed, clothes were being removed. So what you people did? You were all witnesses to the crime. Even in all criminal codes across the world, a person who abets a crime does not protest. Suppose somebody is committing a murder and you are simply sitting and watching. You also are a criminal. And you are also liable to be sentenced to something. May not be death, may not be life imprisonment, but you will also get some punishment. So all these people were party to various kinds of crimes, injustice perpetrated by Duryodhana. So they cannot say like somebody is committing a murder or somebody is committing a bank robbery. Maybe that particular person has not gone to the bank to rob the bank, but taking share from the loot. The person cannot say that I don't know, this person only robbed. No, but your bank account shows that you also got some money. So this is the thing. That is the exact reason why people don't punish so much. Of course, the contract killer is also punished, but the maximum punishment goes to the person who hired that contract killer, not so much that contract killer. This is the fact with all criminal laws. So here also same thing. You see, Duryodhana is questioning Dronacharya, but Dronacharya lacks the moral ground to counter such questions. He does not have the moral ground. He has already gone to a wrong side. So he cannot say that, oh, this is all because of you. And Duryodhana also, in Pandava Gita it comes, he says that I know that this is wrong. I know that this is wrong. Janami dharmam nacha me pravritti. I know what is dharma. I know what is righteous, what is correct. But I am not able to do it. Nacha me pravritti. But I am not able to do it. Even in spite of my knowing what is correct, I am not able to do it. Janami adharmam nacha me nivritti. I also know what is wrong, what is unrighteous, but I am not able to give it up also. So like cigarette smoking or any other smoking for that matter. I know that it is wrong and it is bad and all that, but when I take a puff of cigarettes, it's so wonderful. So I cannot give it up. See, lungs may give up on me, but I cannot give up cigarette. So that is the kind of attitude. Here also Dronacharya or all the Acharyas who are in the Kaurava army, they cannot give up the side of the unrighteous. They cannot give up the side of adharma. Then there is another doubt of Duryodhana with respect to Dronacharya, that is that you are not my teacher actually, you are the teacher of Pandavas. I cannot even call you my teacher. Because you are the teacher of Pandavas, and because you are the teacher of Pandavas, I don't know what are the secret things you have taught them and you have not taught me. So now I don't know how to protect myself. This is another question which Duryodhana raises. Now, you see, why is this shloka very important? This shloka is important because generally what we do, when we are confronted with a situation, we blame other people. This blame game we start, we try to shift the responsibility to another person. So even wicked people or even good people, only people who have taken the whole responsibility on their shoulders have done something good or bad, both in this world. So even if you have to do tremendous good or tremendous bad, you have to take the entire responsibility on your shoulders. Swami Vivekananda says, do all work as though the whole responsibility of the work rests on your shoulder. But here what does Duryodhana do? He sees this army and immediately is afraid, and immediately he looks around on whom I should pass the responsibility, and he finds an easy target in Dronacharya. Because Dronacharya's favorite students were Pandavas, and Dronacharya can also be provoked by talking about Drupada. So all these things he sees, and using his crooked mind, Duryodhana has a very crooked mind, and he goes and tells these things to Dronacharya. Now about crooked mind, we say that some people are so crooked that if you give them a rod and put it into their brain and take it out, it will come out as a screw. So they are so crooked. So, ear.
Something we used to say, put a nail here, count as a screw.
Screw. So very crooked. Some people are very crooked like jalebi. So crooked. You don't know where it begins and where it ends. I have many times wondered where it begins, jalebi, you know. Like there was this person, very intelligent person, and he was eating samosa, and suddenly it occurred to him, and he asked, "Aapne aloo ko isme ghusaya kaise?" So how did you put the potato inside the samosa? So Duryodhana, he has a crooked mind. How does one person's mind become crooked? Actually, in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one of the angelic qualities or divine qualities is Arjavam. Arjavam means straightforwardness. Straightforwardness. Who can be straightforward? That is the question. Who can be straightforward? Only a person who has nothing to hide can be straightforward. Only a person who is not afraid of anybody can be straightforward. Only a person who is truthful can be straightforward. No other person can be straightforward. So suppose in a husband and wife situation, somebody is said that I have to work overtime in the office, but actually went for some party and all that, and didn't want the wife to know. Can he be straightforward? No. He cannot be straightforward. A person who wants to hang on to a job because lack of self-confidence that he or she can get a better job, can that person be straightforward to the boss? No. Because if the boss fires, then there will be no job and this person has no self-confidence. If a person wants to somehow complete one's PhD by buttering and all other techniques popular in India to the professor, can the person be straightforward? No, that person cannot be straightforward, and worse still, when that person becomes a guide, cannot expect straightforwardness from the students. So this is what, you can be straightforward only when you are honest, when you are truthful, and as a consequence you will not be afraid of anyone. Duryodhana is not straightforward. Why? Because he is not truthful. Why? Because he is not righteous. He has got many things to be afraid of. He did lot of injustice, and then he is now afraid of losing that kingdom. So he is not straightforward. And because he is not straightforward, he is crooked. So he is finding out excuses. Now in jalebi, he is creating this jalebi pattern to find out how to get out of the situation. Now this is a kind of a trailer, a prologue to what will follow. What is going to follow is Arjuna's predicament. What is going to follow is Arjuna's rationalizations. Arjuna is going to tell us that I am not going to fight this war because of so many reasons. And at the end of the first chapter, we all feel that Arjuna is so correct. That is the beauty of Arjuna's logic. He gives you so much logic that just like some advocates who always make it a point to be an advocate of the wrong side, and they will give such a logic with human rights and all that, that you will feel that yes, this fellow is a devata. So what if he did some bombing and killed so many innocent people? Actually this person is a devata, and all our human rights people will come and say no, please don't hang. Actually these people should be hanged first. But anyway, so that kind of logic is created. So here also Arjuna will create the logic, and that one small glimpse of such logic is given by what Duryodhana has told. Now Duryodhana is telling all these things because of his crooked mind. And he also means another thing. He says, you see, you are all happy. I find actually in Gita or in Mahabharata also it is told that when these people saw Sri Krishna in front of them, they were all very happy. Now their faces were all beaming because they saw Sri Krishna, Lord himself. So Duryodhana is saying, you are smiling. You have trained your enemy, son of your enemy, and you are smiling. Why you are smiling? Because you are happy. Because you are happy that your disciple could bring such a wonderful battle formation. You are happy that your disciple has done this. That is why you are happy. So he could not understand that he is happy because of seeing Lord Krishna. So he says, you are happy. See, you are smiling. So when a person is suspicious, it happens in everyday life. If a person smiles, why did you smile? Why did you smile? What are you thinking? In fact, there is a great paranoid people, paranoia, which is a big psychological illness. Whenever two people talk, this fellow thinks, he or she thinks that they are talking about me. What are you talking about me? So like in school, what we do is to provoke some person. We will just say like that. So that fellow will get provoked. Hey, kya bol rahe the? Then we will do more, no? To provoke that. So some people, this is a play. But some people take it very seriously, become paranoid, become psychologically ill. So here, Lord had come to the battle, and in the beginning of the battle, Lord is telling Arjuna is telling Lord to bring the chariot in between two armies. He is telling, we will see that. He is telling that, and so people are all happy. Seeing Lord, they are all happy. But Duryodhana thinks that they are happy because his disciples, Dronacharya's disciples, will win the war, or because Dronacharya's disciples have, or Drishtadyumna has made this battle formation. At this end of the shloka, Madhusudana Saraswati comments that, you see, Duryodhana, he has come to Dharmakshetra. This is the field of righteousness. He is surrounded, because Mahabharata war is a very holy place. Why? Because all the great warriors are there in one place at the same time. Very rare. Even in Mahabharata, it is very rare. In Mahabharata war, all great warriors are there. Great sages are there. Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, all these people are there in one same place. And Lord himself is there. Great devotees are there. Great sages are there. Great teachers who have talked about God are there. And Lord himself is there. This is a place which is an extraordinary place. You see, very rarely you come across a place where people who talk about God, sages are there, and where devotees are also there, students are there, warriors are there, and Lord himself is there. So Dharmakshetra is truly Dharmakshetra, because this is a place where righteousness is upheld. And Lord himself is there. Though Duryodhana has come to this holy place, we all see Kurukshetra as a place of war, but it is a very holy place. Though Duryodhana has come to such a holy place, still his mind is going in such polluted direction, crooked direction, such vitiated thinking. He is telling that, see, your students have the courage to come and fight with you, but actually his teacher is under whose side? His teacher is with him. Though his teacher is with him, he is blaming and complaining and challenging his teacher that you are actually not with me, but you are siding my enemies. So you see, it's a very bad thing. The teacher did not want that, but teacher says that I am a royal teacher, so I have to be where the king is. So the teacher is there, and then he is getting criticized, he is getting ridiculed because he is with the side of the teacher. And so a person who does not appreciate the help he is getting, a person who does not appreciate the companions he has got, a person who forsakes or ridicules his own companions, that person will not have a proper result of his action. So, because Duryodhana is thinking in such a corrupt manner, because Duryodhana is thinking in such a doubtful manner, is there a proper end, or can there be a proper end to the life of Duryodhana? No. He will have to suffer for all his evil deeds. That is the idea. So Duryodhana, though he got all the great people at his side, even then he is thinking like this, he will have to suffer for his evil deeds. So this is what Madhusudana Saraswati is telling. So now here we get all these ideas, and the predominant idea which we get is the idea of Shraddha. So Swamiji says that this word cannot be translated. Shraddha is faith in the scriptures and the teachers and in oneself. This is Guru Vakyeshu Shastreshu, we saw in Tattva Bodha, is Vishwasa, belief, faith is called Shraddha. Shraddha is faith in tradition and the teachers and oneself. So now Duryodhana, he does not have Shraddha. He does not have faith in himself, because that is why Drishtva tu Pandavanikam, seeing the battle formation of Pandavas, he got afraid, because he does not have faith in himself. Second, he does not have faith in his own teacher who is by his side. And third, he does not have faith in what he has learned, because his teacher has taught him, but still he is doubtful whether that knowledge will help him win the war. So now Shraddha is very important in our lives. Though you may have all the wisdom, though you may have all kinds of knowledge, what helps you to get success in any sphere of life is not knowledge, but the emotional intelligence or the emotion behind that knowledge. So what you need is not exactly knowledge. That's why we see toppers failing in real life. It's a very common thing. You see people who have studied with you, who were toppers in class. Probably all of you were toppers in your classes, but anyway. So you see that they are all failing, and people who are not that bright doing very well in the real world. Why? Because intelligence has 3 levels. What are the 3 levels? One is the intelligence at the intellectual level, brain intelligence. Then there is the second level, which is called emotional intelligence. And the third level, which is called spiritual intelligence. So there are 3 levels of intelligence. One is the physical or the brain intellectual intelligence. Second is emotional intelligence, and third is spiritual intelligence. What is physical intelligence? You all know. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That kind of intelligence is physical intelligence.
Physical intelligence or intellectual?
Same thing, intellectual or physical. So that is the brain intelligence, the computational intelligence, or the intelligence of your brain. So 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. What is emotional intelligence? So you have a Facebook account. Most of the people have Facebook accounts, profiles, and then you have a friend request, and then suddenly somebody was telling me that how does a person show that the person does not like you? Anyone? How does a person in 2014 show that the person does not like you or does not want to have any contact with you? Anyone? Unfriend you from Facebook. So if a person unfriends you, so actually there is a student, so I bashed that student, and immediately I said, what kind of person you are and all that, blah blah blah, nicely. When it comes, it comes in a flow. So I simply bashed, and immediately I saw that I have been unfriended. Immediately, in moments, think.
An existing friend can be removed.
Unfriend. So friend, unfriend. See how Facebook knowledge I have got. So unfriend. So like that you unfriend a person. Suppose somebody has unfriended you. What do? Do you not bother about it? Or do you call that person and say that, oh, why did you unfriend me? There are so many other people to unfriend. First you unfriend them. Or something like that. How do you handle this kind of situation? That is emotional intelligence. So I am applying for a particular job. I don't get this job. Okay, I will apply again. I will try again. This kind of route. Or my mother scolded me, so I give up everything of my house and I go out. Or my wife scolds me. So I know that people generally scold. So then okay, I go, okay, oh, no problem. Theek hai. Then matlab besharam, behaya, no, without any kind of shame. You go again and talk to the person, and that person will tell what kind of person is this. Anyway, let us talk. That is emotional intelligence.
Is it how to adjust the problem?
No, that is making it very simple. Actually, there are various kinds of problems, and adjust but not giving up your ideal. That is very important. You can adjust, you can compromise. Giving up the ideal, that is not emotional intelligence. You keep your ideal. You have your own ideal system. You don't give up that, but you just absorb the shocks. You just withstand the assaults of life, and that is emotional intelligence. What is spiritual intelligence? It is very high. Generally people don't bother about that, but everyone has got in small measure. What is spiritual intelligence? The idea that you are not only the body or the mind, that you are beyond body-mind complex. That is spiritual intelligence. That you are away from all these dualities. You are beyond all these dualities. That is spiritual intelligence. So now here we see Duryodhana lacks. So last time I told you, Dhritarashtra lacks intelligence. He lacks what? He lacks emotional sympathy. So he lacks different kinds of sympathy. He does not have emotional sympathy, he does not have, so he is very, he is not only a person who is blind physically, but he is physically blind, emotionally blind and sympathetically blind. The three kinds of blindness of Dhritarashtra: emotionally blind, physically blind, emotionally blind and sympathetically blind. He has got no concern about the suffering of Pandavas. His son, true to his father, is blind, or he lacks three kinds of intelligence. One is physical intelligence he lacks. How can we say that? Because you see, he has so many people, so many great warriors including Bhishma at his side, but still he is worrying about whether I will win the war. So it is lack of physical intelligence. And then he lacks emotional intelligence because he is questioning the integrity, he is questioning the honesty, he is questioning the truthfulness of loyalty of Dronacharya. So that is lacking emotional intelligence, and he is lacking spiritual intelligence. Of course he is lacking that, because otherwise he will not be at the site of unrighteousness. So you see, very simple problem. This problem could have been solved very simply, even at this level, even at this stage, if Duryodhana went. When he is saying so much, when he is telling so many things to Dronacharya, that you have taught your enemy, etc., etc., is making so much of logic. Instead of talking so much, if he had have gone to Krishna and fell at his feet and said that I have done mistake, please forgive me, the war would not have happened. The war would not have happened. So the whole problem is created by what? Ego. The whole problem is created by ego. Actually, I have been telling you here, more than a couple of times I have told you, that any psychological problem is created when there is a difference between the personality which is real personality and the personality which is imagined by you. There are two types of personalities. Everyone has got two types of personalities, broadly speaking. One is your correct personality. Another one is the personality you imagine yourself to be. When the difference between these two personalities becomes more, you become what is called fragmented personality, or you become psychologically ill. So some time back I came across a textbook, a few pages of a textbook, where I saw that in 1959 a psychologist called Carl Rogers had told something very similar to this. But he broke the personality into three kinds of personality. He said that one is your actual personality, and another one is your self-esteem, and another one is your assumed or imagined personality. So one is what you actually think you can do, and what you want to do, or you imagine yourself to do, and what you can really do. So these three kinds of, levels of your personality, understanding of your personality, and whenever there is a break between these three, it creates fragmented personality. One is true, your real personality. No, don't get it confused with metaphysics. We are not talking about Indian philosophy. Very simple. You are a professor of IIT, okay? That is your true position. That is your true personality. Say, here there is no spirituality coming at a very mundane level. And then you imagine yourself to be the professor of MIT. I replaced by M. So you imagine yourself to be the professor of MIT. So that is what I told, that there are two kinds. One is your imagination and one is your true. Now Carl Rogers, he adds another thing. He says self-esteem. So you know that you are the professor of IIT, one professor of IIT, you are a professor of IIT, but then you are not confident enough to discharge the responsibility as a professor of IIT. So your self-esteem. Always you have this doubt whether I will be able to perform, whether I will be able to perform. So that again is another aspect of your personality.
That means you want to give that those things. One is your real personality. And
No.
real means that professor. And other is self-esteem means which is below that. I cannot reach.
No, it can be below also, it can be above also.
Above is the MIT one.
No, that is assumed. No, self-esteem is different. Self-esteem is like confidence. Self-esteem is like self-confidence. So it may be below or it may be above also. You may have overconfidence. Suppose you are a professor, you may be able to teach very nicely, but you are thinking that I am a very bad professor. Suppose I am a professor and I am very bad in teaching, but I am thinking that I am wonderful in teaching. So you see, this is the thing. So that self-esteem is also problem. If your self-esteem is higher than actual, it creates problem. But some people have an assumed what they want to be. That is why in parenting, people usually impose what they want to be on their children. Did you get the point? Not very clear.
Where I lack clarity is the MIT one is it can be my dream.
That's what.
Dream is different than personal.
No. It is not your dream. It is your assumed personality. You think that you are fit to be a professor in MIT. Let us see at this like this. You think that you are actually fit to be a professor of MIT, but you are handicapped as IIT professor. That is very common. Many of us think that we are all fit to be President of United States. Please give. No, please give now itself. No, for the benefit of others. No, please do now. We don't need any names. Please.
It is very much clear. That suppose I am the software engineer teaching in electronics department of IIT.
Suppose no, you are.
No, now I am thinking that I did my postdoc from MIT. Then I studied in Jabalpur University, but I think that I have studied from Stanford University, and that's the way I am writing my biodata. All with first, but otherwise I am having a very good quality, and this is the reality now that has happened.
With you.
Not really.
No, don't frighten us.
But I am to tackle. It has happened.
No, that's what. You see, this assumed personality. Assumed personality. Initially, it starts like this. That I am qualified or I am capable enough to be the president of USA, or I am capable enough to be a tenured professor of MIT. But because of lack of resources, I am here. It starts like this and it ends up like that. Then I start believing that I am a professor of MIT. And that is when it is called schizophrenia. It is a complete madness. And I am not a schizophrenic. No, there is no way you can come out of schizophrenia. It is final, full and final. Settlement, that's all. There is no cure for schizophrenia.
That person is not a schizophrenic. The person she is referring to is not schizophrenic.
No, if the person sincerely believes that, does the person,
Yes, sincerely, on that.
no, not thought, sincerely believes even now?
Suppose one that I am writing my biodata like that.
No. He or she wrote the biodata, but even now does she believe?
But he believes that if I will not write like that means self-esteem is not there. He thinks that if I will not write like that, then people will not.
No, that is a different thing. If the person knows that I have not studied in Jadavpur University, and the person knows that what I am writing is wrong, then the person is not a schizophrenic. Not clever, maybe foolish. So,
But it's not one thing
If the person is knowingly doing that. But there are many people who unknowingly do that and believe that that person has done.
Now it's this Buddha. Because Maharaj, you write that your name is not Swami Narasimhananda, you are Swami Vivekananda. You will be called tomorrow. Still why they are doing?
No. That's what I am telling. There are two things. One is the person, does the person himself or herself know?
No. And they know.
Then that person is not a mad person.
No.
There is some problem, but not schizophrenia. What will happen with schizophrenia is the person actually believes that I did it from Jadavpur University.
No, Maharaj, but you know that you will be called tomorrow.
See.
But still you are doing that.
No, that is a different question altogether. All of you know that whatever I am talking is completely useless, but still you are listening, you see.
No, Maharaj, it's not that. Suppose what you know.
Everyone is laughing. They are all. No. You see, everyone knows when I am cheating in an examination.
Maharaj, it's not cheating. You are having an email ID, right?
It is common, no, now.
No, it's not common.
It is common. In IT companies, no, you will be surprised. In IT companies, it is a very common occurrence to wrongly tell the experience. They have only 10 years experience, they will say 15 years experience. Everyone knows that now every company does what is called background search. But still people do that. Why do they do that? There are many foolish people in this world. Not all are intelligent like you, huh? Now, have you been attending these classes or not?
Yes.
Then what are you telling?
I said sometimes it's necessary. That necessary.
How is it necessary?
I will tell you a situation. Like in US, lots of people hire for consultant for six month lecture. And what they do, like they ask some kind of very wrong combination. Like the person should be this, something like that. And it's very common that people put all those things and they just get it.
It may not be that common, but it is also very common that people are caught and then they are given a black mark and whole career is jeopardized. So how is it necessary? I don't know, and it is not necessary. It is something I am questioning whether I have been able to communicate to you at all. How would you say that telling a lie is necessary?
No, it's like
It is not necessary. It is an absolute stupid thing to say. How do you say that? It is not necessary. In the short run, it feels that it is necessary, but no.
Maharaj,
sometimes because
internet
there is no something.
is after
Yes
Google
or
era.
no? Simple.
Maharaj, one thing is that when I know I will caught tomorrow, still why I do it?
That's what, you see. Nearby person is telling, he is telling it is necessary.
Otherwise you cannot survive.
So, you see, you have been attending these classes and you have been reading so many books, and after so much of Sararat, Ramayana, Sonarpur, whole night you have heard Ramayana, and now you are saying that Sita is Rama is the uncle of Sita. What kind of talk is this? How is it necessary? You show me one person who has achieved greatness by being untruthfulness. One person. I don't want two. Huh? Common man, then you can become a dog and pig. Why do you want to become a man? Become a pig. It is still better. Pig does not have any suffering. It always eats shit and produces shit. Eats garbage, produces garbage. Become a pig. Why do you want to become human being?
You need to see that way.
Huh.
Why Sri Krishna always follows unrighteousness to justify killing, like everybody kills like in the world.
He is not justifying killing. You have not understood. You were sleeping. He says that do the work which you have committed to do. He is not asking you to kill. Huh.
In Mahabharata, like
He is telling Arjuna to kill. Because Arjuna told that I am a Kshatriya, it is my duty to kill.
but he follows some wrong method in killing the enemies.
Who is following wrong method?
Like everybody is killed like some kind of untruth method actually.
No.
Like they brought a woman in front of Krishna and they told a lie to killing Dronacharya, and they feel like that fellow Rana, like when he was splitting the chariot or something kind of like there are some wrong way actually. You see that.
Now Krishna is ensuring that everyone gets justice. Okay, he is ensuring that everyone gets justice for what they did. Now when Karna is without any weapon, now he says, I am without weapon. But whom did Karna kill? Abhimanyu. And Abhimanyu was with weapon. So that is the kind of justice given by whom? By Lord himself, by Krishna. And that again you have to note that Krishna does not force other people to do this trick business. Krishna himself does all that. But also where does he do? He does all that to people who have done similar things. So that is not lie. And Krishna himself says in Gita that you have to speak truth.
But Ashwatthama, he was also the guru.
Huh?
Ashwatthama, he was that gold white Krishna.
No, not by Krishna, Yudhishthira.
And he was very righteous person.
No, that Krishna asked him to tell.
Okay. So management चल रहा है.
ना मैनेजमेंट चल रहा है नहीं चल रहा है. Then in Gita you would have told that you tell falsity. In Gita you would have told that tell the lies. He doesn't tell that. You see, how you treat a criminal, a murderer, is not how you should behave in the society. If a person comes, suppose in this hall with an AK-47 or whatever it is, probably they have better equipment. So now, if I know how to fire a gun, should I fire or not? I am a sannyasi. Tell me this. Now you are talking about ethical dilemma. Now when you have taken this question, let us come to this.
Yes, you should.
Why should I? I am a sannyasi.
There cannot be one answer to this. It purely will be decided by what you. I will decide some other way.
No. There can be only one answer to this.
Unless you're in front of everybody, you are not.
No, I think there can be only one answer to this. If somebody comes into this room, and let us suppose, or maybe it is a reality, that I have some training in weaponry, and I also get some weapon. Should I kill that person or not? And the answer is yes, I should kill that person. Why? Because sannyasa says that people will be getting fearlessness from me. Not only people, all living beings will become fearless. I give fearlessness to all living beings. That is one of the vows of sannyasa. I give abhaya to all living beings. So here how many living beings are there? And one living being comes, and why should I give abhaya to only that living being, prejudicing all the other living beings? So bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya, I will have to kill that person. So there is only one answer. See, ethical dilemmas. So how I treat a criminal cannot be, it is only an exception. It cannot be the rule of how to behave in the society. Had it been so, Krishna would have told, why is Satya and all that? He would have told, talk lies, be happy. He did not say that. Never in Mahabharata, not only in Gita, nowhere he has told that you should tell lies. Why? And I don't understand. There is seriously wrong about the whole exercise of studying the scriptures. If 1 and 2 people think that it is very difficult to speak lies, I will tell why you are saying that. Because you don't want to practice it. Because you want to find out a shortcut. That is why you are telling it. And Swami Vivekananda has told, unselfishness is the best. Unselfishness is more paying, only we do not have the patience to practice it. So we don't have the patience, so 1, 2 or whomsoever thinks like that is telling to find out some shortcut. We don't want to practice. And if we practice, see what has become now. We all worship Gita, we all worship Upanishads, we all say, such a great tradition. But how many Indians can keep time? How many Indians can be punctual, keep their word? It's an international reality today that Indians are very bad in keeping time and their word. So what has happened? People don't consider us seriously. But an American, he doesn't say this. he or she, an American doesn't say that truthfulness is great. American doesn't worship Gita. American doesn't say Upanishads are great, etc. But they maintain punctuality. Most of the times, even I have seen the worst people who are not even properly educated, keeping their word. So, in India, we have told something and practiced something else. And that has to go. If you think that truthfulness is not, then you are seriously in problem.
That is the same actually. Like in corporate world, it's a dog in a dog's world actually. It's not a real world.
In corporate world, I have some experience of corporate world. Corporate world also, you please give me one example of a person who has become great in corporate world by dishonesty. And I am not talking about the Ambanis. You give me one example, any example. There are so many examples like Tatas and all that who have come up only because of integrity. I will tell you, Ramakrishna Mission is an example of what integrity can do in an organization. See what we produce with very little money. Very little money, we don't need that great money. In 2003, there was a tsunami which India saw. 3 states were affected by that tsunami. Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Andhra, not Karnataka. Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Andhra and some Odisha also. And we did relief work in all these 3 states. In some parts of Odisha also we did. Andaman was there. No, Odisha I don't think. Andaman was there. So we did relief in all these places. Our entire expenditure for relief was 25 crores only. What relief we did? We constructed small villages with full, common, what is that called? Schools, small hospitals and common that community halls and with all sewerage system, roads, lighting, everything. Means complete village or small towns you can say. We constructed across Tamil Nadu and Andhra. Then we also distributed fishing nets because fishermen need these boats, fishing nets, and we constructed that. We gave them food, we gave them medicines and clothing and all that. This project we did for 1 year, almost. Government of India spent 2,500 crores. It's the beginning of the story. And they did exactly the same things. How much reached, I don't know. The buildings we constructed were supposed to be tsunami proof. Government of India also constructed buildings which were supposed to be tsunami proof. Now you know how much resources Government of India has, how much resources Ramakrishna Mission has. Obviously Ramakrishna Mission does not have access to that kind of resources. In 2004, there was a mini version of tsunami again in Kadalur, a coastal district of Tamil Nadu. Mini, not even 10% of the original tsunami. And what happened to these government houses? They became powder. Literally powder. They mixed with sand. And all the houses built by Ramakrishna Mission were simply there. And Hindu newspaper, I can be very vocal about it, they have not been very supportive of Ramakrishna Mission's cause. But they in their front page said that this is true rehabilitation work. We were not dishonest, we didn't have much money, we didn't have much resources. What you need is only truthfulness. So you show me one example of something great or something even positive work done by somebody being untruthful. It is not possible. It's not possible. So you have to be truthful. If you have to do something, you have to be truthful. In our organizations, we don't need huge number of employees. You give us 1 employee or 2 employees, it's enough. We can produce wonders. You see, so that is the point. So Duryodhana, though he had a great army, he was afraid because of unrighteousness. Pandavas had very small army, but they were not afraid because of righteousness. This is the whole crux of the thing. So if you say that by telling truth I can get the situation, apparently it seems so, but in the long run it will never happen. So if in a relationship, for example, if you tell lies, maybe in the beginning you may think that things become okay, but in a long run you will end up in divorce. Any questions?
Maharaj, why is, I don't know whether it's true or wrong, why, how is Duryodhana going to heaven? They say that Yudhishthira and Duryodhana, both of them went to heaven. I don't know.
No.
I read a book actually, like a novel, like there was a Patnaik, and he's telling that area was, that land was very sacred. So whoever dies in that land has to go to heaven for some time.
Okay, I will have to see this. I will get back to you later. I will refer this and then tell you.
Actually, they say that he was a very bad man. But he used to say that I am bad. Everybody knows him as a bad. So that is the truthfulness. That he will try to, he was not a hypocrite. Actually, most of us are hypocrite. If we are bad, we are trying ourselves to hide and try to show that we are a good person. So he was not a hypocrite. He, whatever he is, everybody can come to know, everybody curses him. And that's the way Duryodhana also went to heaven, because he was not a hypocrite.
Very dangerous interpretation, I would say. Because I can commit murders and say that yes, I commit murder. So, no, I don't know. I will have to see this. And
This is strange. That's why.
any other question anybody has?
But in our society there are many traditions which are not good. Then how to distinguish the traditions?
So first you have to understand what is the tradition. Say, if you keep water open, no, like in pond, etc., and if the water does not circulate, it gathers rubbish, lot of rubbish. But the water has purity, means water is pure. So what do? You filter the water and drink. So similarly, Sri Ramakrishna tells it very nicely. He says sugar and sand, they have got mixed up. So you have to remove sand from sugar. Sugar is there, but then sand has to be removed. So similarly, you have to understand, you have to rationalize, you have to understand, you have to go back to the roots. So that is why in Indian tradition, we say Shruti, means Vedas. So Vedas, whatever is told in the Vedas, they are eternal. Then many other things have been told by many people. They may work, may not work. So Swami Vivekananda says, whenever there is a conflict between Vedas and other texts, so you give up, just ignore other texts and stick to Vedas. And in Vedas also Upanishads. So that is the tradition you have to hold on to. Suppose somebody comes and says, like Manu in one place has said, that he has told many good things, but people don't quote good things, they quote only bad things. So Manu has told that if a Shudra hears Vedas, lead has to be poured in his ear. So that we don't need to accept. Why? Because in Upanishads we see that a person who did not know his father's name was taught the knowledge of Brahman. So that is how you have to understand. And teacher also, anybody can become a teacher now. Only you have to have a visiting card and probably a PhD. That is also very easy to get nowadays. So, no, teacher means a person who is truly a teacher. How can a person call himself to be a teacher or herself to be a teacher? He or she practices what he preaches. So that is a teacher. And the person practices what the person preaches. So a person says Satyam Vada, and if the person oneself does not practice, the person is not a teacher. So that teacher you have to follow. And this tradition which is there in the Vedas, that you have to follow. Clear?
Nowadays, many of the Mahatmas have become such a great actor. It's very difficult to follow.
Now, first of all, they are not Mahatmas, they are posing as Mahatmas.
They have two kinds of actors.
You see, actually, the answer to this question is, when the student is ready, teacher arrives. So you are getting such Mahatmas because the person is fit only for such to get such Mahatmas. If you have true yearning, you will get true teacher. You are getting such all these fake teachers because that is the kind of training or the kind of mind we have got. Any other question? Because in our country we find that very bad people, bad means economically very poor, like Ramanujan also. You see Ramanujan, he got connection with Hardy. See, where was he? He was a clerk, a decrepit clerk in this nondescript clerk in Port Trust, Chennai. And how did he get connection with Hardy? So all this is some accident. So that happens because he was ready for the world. And one, what you call Milkha Singh could get training. Why? Because Milkha Singh was ready for the world. So similarly, if you are ready for the world or if you are ready for spirituality, you will get the teacher. Fools like me also have got teachers. So that shows, that is also another example.
Swami, you keep on telling that this Druspadama was trained by Dronacharya.
It is very much true.
Druspadama was trained by Dronacharya.
If you ask the question 10 times also, the answer will be same.
Like he was like born after the war, was defeated actually in the war with Dronacharya.
Born after the war?
Like first like Pandavas defeated.
No. War has not begun. The first day.
Arjuna gives Gurudakshana to...
Drishtadumna is the... No, that is true. He is the student. He is student.
He went to Dronacharya to learn.
Yes. Mahabharata. Online, google.com. And of course here another meaning is also there. That is true. But there is another meaning that all the Pandavas have also been... That of course we discussed. Have been your students. Both sides, they are your students. Kauravas are also your students. Pandavas are also your students. Now this is very much true. Because that is why again and again he says, you see, he has organized the army and who has taught him? You only taught him. Now you can, instead of thinking so much and putting so much question mark and exclamation mark, you can go to Google.com and see. You'll get the answer. Oh, really? It happened? Really? Really? Question mark, exclamation mark. Then star, asterisk and all that. Any other question? Okay. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat